Guess I better watch my mouth, I whistle.
I think I just remembered something. I think I left the fart set running.
Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a story time on a paranormal experience that I had about 2 years ago. It really stresses me out. I haven't really talked about it much since it happened. Like, there are a lot of people that I'm really close to that don't really know about it in detail because it terrifies me. And I feel like the more I talk about it, the worse it's going to get, or that it'll happen again, you know? But it actually stresses me out to the point that I need 2 stress balls, a diffuser that is spouting out lavender, and candy. Because it really just freaks me out, and I wanted to have a little bit of comfort when I talk about it. I'm also losing my voice right now, so if that bothers you, I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry, I can't really help it. But, yeah, if you'd like to see that, then just kind of roll on into the video. That would be nice. Thank you. So, I think I mentioned it in my introduction video. I may not have. That I used to live in a group home, a girls' ranch. And before that I was in a homeless shelter. But if a video like that is something that people would want to see, I can make a whole video on that. I'm not really going to go into detail about that whole experience. But the paranormal experience that I'm going to be talking about happened at that ranch. And it wasn't that I was really there for, like, bad behavior, so before you get that, like, in your head, like, I wasn't a bad kid, really. It was just family situations and, you know, things like that, you know. I wasn't a perfect child, but I was by no means, like, a devil child, you know what I'm saying? But this happened to me when I think I had literally just turned 14, and it had started to get cold. I think it was in October, which makes it that much scarier, because it was so close to Halloween, and, you know, like, the creepy things, I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna kind of explain the layout of our rooms. So, there were 5 bedrooms in our hallway. Okay, so, like, it's a house. It's a long house. And on this side of the house is our rooms. There's 5 bedrooms. There were 3 on this side and 2 on this side, and then the laundry room was where, like, if there were 6 rooms, that's where the 6th room would be, but, like, the laundry room was with us. There was the kitchen, the living room, and then there was an apartment. That was where the house parents stayed. Like, they had their own house, and that's where they and their kids stayed. And then there was a relief room, and when the house parents would get, like, 2 or 3 days off, and then a relief parent would come in, and they would stay in that room, and it had a bathroom. But down back in this hallway where we slept, our rooms were connected, and all but one door didn't have a lock on it. Like, there was only one door that had a lock on it that was a room for us to stay in, and that was only because at one point in time the other relief room was used for storage, and that bedroom was used as a relief room, and so the relief parent had put a lock on the door. So we weren't allowed to lock our doors, is pretty much what I'm saying. And the bathrooms didn't have locks on it except for from the outside. I think they had locks on the outside. I'm not sure. Like, we could lock each other out from coming into our bedrooms, into each other's bedrooms from the bathroom, I think. Or maybe I'm mistaken. That was at the other house, because there were multiple houses, and sometimes, like, if housemates would leave, you'd have to go to a different house. But anyways, not gonna get into that. But anyways, our rooms were connected, is what I'm saying. And so, it wasn't really very strict there, but it had kind of a schedule. And it was dark. And I'd eaten, everybody had eaten, and we were all in our bedrooms, or, like, in the living room. Like, we were just doing our thing. Like, nothing was going on at that point. But later on that night, we ended up having to go, getting out of breath, because this is really freaking me out to talk about it. I'm gonna have a panic attack. Okay. But anyways, everyone else was kind of just, like, chilling, you know, and so I laid down to take a nap. And I've struggled with insomnia for, like, a really long time. And so when I lay down to take a nap or to go to sleep at night, it takes me a really long time to actually fall asleep. And so I'll just kind of lay there, and I'll either look at the ceiling or I'll close my eyes, or I'll go in there and take some melatonin. But in this instance, I was just feeling kind of drowsy and I wanted to lay down, and I'd been laying there a good 10 minutes and I knew I wasn't going to end up going to sleep, and so I was just kind of laying there, and I looked over, and on my shelf, we all had twin beds and like shelves on either sides and dressers, and like all of our rooms were basically the same. So I reached over to my little like shelf on the side of my bed and I picked up a book and I started reading it. And you know how sometimes reading a book and you don't, get to the good part and you're just like, don't want to read it anymore. So I sat it down and I laid back and I closed my eyes. And I tried to open my eyes again and I could not open my eyes. And so I was freaking out. I was like, well, maybe I'm asleep. Like, and I just know, like, I'm asleep and I'm still kind of conscious, if you know what I'm saying. Cautious. I cannot say it for the life of me. But I was just kind of thinking, like, don't freak out. Like, it's nothing crazy. And then I feel like this searing, like, pain on my face. Like, someone is, like, scratching down my face. And at that point, like, once it got to about right here, I was able to open my eyes. And I'm laying down in the bed, like this. Kind of. And so I was laying down, and I look up. And I see this girl. She's wearing a red tank top. And we, by the way, we had dress codes in our homes, and so we weren't allowed to wear tank tops around the house. So there was a girl standing there in a red tank top. She had the palest skin, like a few shades darker than this. Like, her skin was so pale. And she had black hair. And, like, she had a face. I know she had a face because I looked her in her eyes. But for the life of me, I cannot recall, like, what she looked like at all. Like, and it's not just like, oh, I forgot her face. Like, it's like, I saw her, I looked her in her eyes, and I do not know what she looked like. You know what I'm saying? So that, it just really freaked me out. And at this time, she's scratching my face, and she's about, like, right here, and I've done to open my eyes, and I'm looking at her. And I cannot move. I'm trying to scream, and I cannot scream, and I was just freaking out. And when I finally realized that I could move, I sat up, and literally, my door was closed when I laid down to take the snap. But my bathroom door was opened. And I looked up. My door was open. We had a back door that was, I forgot to mention that in the layout of our house. There was a back door, like, where our rooms was, and at the end of that hallway. Like, there was a back door to where you could go out, like, it was an emergency exit. And that door was wide open. And as soon as I sat up, like, and I've kind of gotten, not really over it, but I've gotten more in tune with myself, really. So I know when I'm starting to have an anxiety attack. And I kind of know what to do to prevent it, like a minute ago, and I just kind of, like, calm myself down. But that wouldn't have been really bad, honestly. But, so I sit up, and I kind of just started, like, I was like, help, like, and then there was a girl, I'm not gonna say her name, and our bathroom was connected, and she was on the other side, and I started, calling for her, and me and her at one point were really close, but at this point we weren't really, but she was still worried, because I was, like, calling, like, something's happened to me, and so I was, like, calling for her, and I was freaking out, and I was having a panic attack, to the point that when I was calling for her, it was coming out kind of choked. And so I'm calling for her, and she comes in there, and she goes, "What happened to your face?" And I just started pointing to my door, and I was like, she, like, that's all I could get out of my mouth at that point. And so she, like, she goes, like, and opens my door the rest of the way, because it was just kind of open. She looks out, and she's like, the back door is open, like, what happened? And finally, she's, like, sitting there, like, calming me down, and she goes and gets the house parents, and the house parents are in my room, and I'm just freaking out, like, I cannot even talk. And I finally got to the point where I'd stopped crying, I'd stopped hyperventilating, like, I was in a state where I could talk. And I explained to them what happened, and literally, they came in there, and they prayed over my room. Because, and before this happened, like, I always got, like, an eerie sensation in my room. Like, if I was, like, changing clothes, it wasn't like, oh, there's a creep watching me type of feeling. It was like, somebody's looking at me. Or, like, if I'd be coming home from school, and I'd sit my backpack down in one place, and I'd come back in there later, and it'd be in a different place. And I'm not saying that, I'm not ruling that out as, you know, that was definitely paranormal. Like, it could have just been I sat it down and didn't remember where I sat it down. But there were some points where it was just, like, weird things would happen, and I would kind of, like, you know, brush it off. But when this happened, I just felt like it all, like, came from that. And I don't know, it just freaked me out so bad. And it, like, nobody in my house really wanted to be alone with me for a while after that, because they felt like whatever was in the house was coming after me. And so I was really honestly very alone in this, and it freaked me out so badly. But I just want to go ahead and add this in too. Before all this happened, there was another girl in our house that had had several mental issues, and I was in another house with her, and I'm planning on doing a story time on the reason that I moved houses when I was in that group home. Lordy, that stresses me out almost as much as this does. But she, several times was checked into mental hospital for, like, doing and saying insane, crazy things. She had, like, voodoo dolls, and she would say all the time that, like, she wanted us dead. There were 3 girls in particular, myself being one of them, that she could not stand. And what's crazy is that before I was in this group home with her, I was in the homeless shelter with her too. And this was, like, all the way across the state. And we were friends in that homeless shelter. Like, we were best friends. And then when I got there, like, she hated me. Like, something just kind of switched. But I don't know. Where was I? What was I even talking about? Oh, but she literally had a journal that had razors, like, not in the pages, but, like, in the binding of the book, like, when you open up a book and you can stick something down in the page, like, she had razors hidden in the pages of that. And it was, like, the whole journal was filled of hateful feelings that she had for certain people there. And how badly she wanted certain ones of us dead, and ways that she wanted us to, like, die. And she had pictures that she drew, and when you asked her, what is that, she'd be like, that's my demon. And so, like, there were just certain things that she did and said that made me feel like that paranormal experience that I had came from her, and it wasn't just something that happened. Which could be completely wrong and completely off, but all these things that happened there didn't happen until after she had left. And, yeah. I don't really remember. Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, this girl that, you know, like, in my paranormal experience, she had really long black hair. I don't know if I mentioned that. And she was wearing black shorts, and she had no shoes on. She's pale. And, yeah, it just really freaked me out. Sorry, there's hair on my Sour Patch Kid. My memory span. This is big. But at first, when my housemates came in there and talked to me, you know, like, when they came in there after, like, immediately after it happened, and I was still kind of having my panic attack. And, I was talking about it. They were completely convinced that I was dreaming. That it was a bad dream. And the reason I knew it wasn't a dream is because when she ran out, I never closed my eyes. From the time that I felt her scratching me to when I opened my eyes and everything, I didn't close my eyes after that. So there was no way that I, like, closed my eyes and reopened them and realized, you know, what had just happened. Like, I immediately sat up out of bed and started freaking out. Like, I saw this with my own eyes. I may have been hallucinating, I don't know. But that still doesn't explain the scratches that were on my face. And for a long time, they were also convinced that the girl that came in there to help me, because she kind of fit the description, not really. She had, like, pitch black hair, but it was about the length of mine. The girl that I saw had, like, long hair, like, not down to her butt or anything, but, you know, long enough to where it's like, whoa, she has long hair, like. And the other girl, like, she obviously said, like I said, like, me and her weren't really close. Like, we not necessarily that we didn't like each other, but we had a spat, and we weren't as close as we used to be. And, yeah, they were convinced that she did it because the bathroom door was open and everything, but like I said, that doesn't explain why the back door was open or any of that. And she was wearing a completely different thing when she came in there. And that girl ran out of my room. I sat up and called for the other girl. So there was no way she could have, you know, gotten back in, because I would have seen her run back through the hallway. Which that really upset her. She thought that I told them that, and me and her talked about it, and it was fine, but yeah, that was honestly probably the scariest one, and I do not know why it was so terrifying to me. I don't know, it was so scary. And there are other things paranormally that have happened to me that didn't scare me as bad as that, but they should have, you know. It was just terrifying. So yeah, that was it. I hope you liked my video, and if you want, you can subscribe and comment and all that, you know, crazy jazz. If this is a type of video that you like to see, I can do them more often, because I for sure have plenty of more story times. This one was just one that I haven't necessarily even talked to people that I'm close with, because it freaks me out, but I've just realized that it's better to get things off your chest than to sit there and hold them in. But yeah, I'm still freaked out about it. But yeah, hope you enjoyed.